Part 1. The ancient secret that can transform your life. Did you know that one of the most powerful tools for facing life's toughest moments might have been discovered over 2,000 years ago? Now, imagine this. You're in the middle of a chaotic day. Things aren't going as planned. You feel overwhelmed, maybe even anxious or frustrated. But deep inside, there's this calm, unshakable, grounded, peaceful. Like no matter what life throws at you, it can't knock you off balance. Sounds like a superpower, right? Well, it's not just a fantasy. It's real. And it comes from an ancient philosophy called Stoicism. Born in the bustling markets and grand marble halls of ancient Greece and Rome, Stoicism is more than just a set of ideas. It's a way of living. And in a world where uncertainty is the only constant, this philosophy may just be the anchor you've been searching for. At its core, Stoicism teaches one transformative truth. We don't control what happens to us, but we always control how we respond. Let that sink in for a second. You can't stop the storm from coming, but you can choose how you walk through it. And that one mindset shift? It changes everything. You see, Stoicism isn't about being emotionless. It's not about pretending nothing bothers you. It's about feeling your emotions, understanding them, and choosing your response with clarity, not chaos. It's about living with purpose, resilience, and peace, no matter what's happening around you. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going deep into the heart of Stoicism, its timeless wisdom, its practical lessons, and discovering how it can reshape not just how we think, but how we live. So if you've ever felt like life is throwing too much at you, or if you're simply looking to find more peace in your everyday routine, stick with me. This isn't just another philosophy lecture. This is a roadmap for living better. And hey, before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like the video if you find it helpful, and share it with someone who might need to hear this. Every second of this video builds on the last, so stay with me till the end. Let's start with something we've all experienced. Have you ever found yourself stuck in traffic, already late, gripping the wheel, just steaming with frustration? Or maybe you're scrolling your phone, and someone leaves a nasty comment on your post. Suddenly your mood shifts, you're annoyed, maybe even angry. Sound familiar? Life throws these little emotional tests at us every day. And often we fail them. We let our peace get hijacked by things we can't control. But here's the Stoic twist. You don't have to react that way. One of the greatest Stoic thinkers, Epictetus, put it beautifully. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Traffic, weather, online negativity, these are all outside our control. You can't change them. But your response? That's yours. Completely. Let's break that down with a real-world example. Picture yourself again in that traffic jam, running late. You can sit there fuming, honking, stressing out. But none of that makes the traffic move faster, right? Or you can take a deep breath, accept the situation, and make the most of the time. Maybe you turn on a podcast, an audiobook, or some music that lifts your mood. You've just transformed a stressful moment into a peaceful one. The event didn't change, but you did. That's the power of Stoicism. And here's the cool part. It's not just ancient wisdom anymore. Modern psychology backs it up too. Carl Jung, the legendary psychologist, once said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." Think about that. Your identity isn't defined by your circumstances, it's shaped by your choices. That's the heart of Stoic thinking. You don't control the waves, but you can learn to sail. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, reminded himself constantly, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This kind of mindset goes way beyond traffic jams. It touches everything: your goals, your relationships, your fears, and how you bounce back from setbacks. Let's look at another example. Maybe you're trying to achieve something big, launch a business, get in shape, learn a new skill. But someone close to you criticizes you. Maybe you hit a setback, or you fail. You have two choices. You can let it defeat you, or you can see it as a challenge, a lesson, a stepping stone. That's what the Stoics called turning obstacles into opportunities. It might sound counterintuitive. After all, we're taught to see problems as bad things, as reasons to stop, complain, or give up. But Marcus Aurelius flipped that idea. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the obstacle is the way forward. Powerful, right? So the next time life puts something in your path, instead of asking, "Why me?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" What if every rejection is feedback? Every delay is a lesson in patience? Every failure is a clue to future success? That mindset, that Stoicism in action. And that's where I want to pause this first section. Because what we've covered so far is already enough to spark real change in how you approach your day-to-day life. We've talked about the core Stoic belief in controlling your response, not your circumstances. How to handle everyday frustrations with a calmer, wiser mindset. Real-world examples of how to practice that philosophy in modern life. In the next part, we're going to explore how the Stoics viewed emotions and how to build true emotional resilience, something we all need now more than ever. So stay tuned for part 2, and if this first section sparked something in you, let me know in the comments. What's one situation in your life where you could use a little more Stoic calm? Part 2, Emotional Resilience, how the Stoics faced life's storms. Let's talk about something we all wrestle with, emotions. Anger, frustration, sadness, anxiety. These feelings are part of being human. You can't avoid them, and honestly, you shouldn't. But the question isn't whether you feel them. The real question is, what do you do with them? This is where the Stoics drop some seriously life-changing wisdom. They didn't teach us to be robots. They weren't about suppressing emotions or pretending everything's fine when it's not. What they taught was something much more powerful. Emotional resilience. That means having the ability to feel your emotions, process them, and still respond in a way that reflects your values, not your impulses. Let's say life just hit you hard. Maybe you lost your job, got rejected, or had a falling out with someone close to you. The feelings rush in: shock, fear, sadness, maybe even shame. That's normal. But now comes the moment of choice. You can let those emotions drive your decisions, or you can take a breath, ground yourself, and choose a response that keeps you aligned with who you truly want to be. Marcus Aurelius, writing during war, illness, and political chaos, reminded himself often, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's emotional resilience in action. It's the ability to say, "Yes, I feel this pain, but I'm not going to let it control me." Seneca took it a step further. He said life's difficulties are actually tests, opportunities to prove our strength. He believed that facing adversity without losing composure is one of the highest forms of personal growth. Now, let's connect this ancient wisdom to modern psychology. Carl Jung, a pioneer in understanding the human psyche, believed that real wholeness comes from embracing all aspects of ourselves, including the parts we'd rather ignore. And that takes discipline, self-awareness, courage. See the connection? Both Stoicism and psychology say this. You don't become strong by avoiding emotion, you become strong by meeting it face to face, understanding it, and choosing your response with clarity and purpose. So let's break it down. How do you actually practice emotional resilience in daily life? It starts with self-awareness. When you're feeling something intense, don't run from it. Don't drown it in scrolling or snacks or distractions. First, ask yourself, what exactly am I feeling? What triggered this? What's the story I'm telling myself about it? That alone is a game changer. Let's go back to Epictetus. He famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." It's not the email from your boss that ruins your day. It's the story you tell yourself about what it means. Maybe your mind spirals, "I'm not good enough. I'm failing." Stop right there. That's the moment Stoicism gives you a lifeline. It says, hold on. What's actually true? What's in your control? What response aligns with your values? This mindset doesn't come overnight, but every time you practice it, you're building emotional strength. And here's something powerful. Aristotle talked about the golden mean, the balance between too much and too little of any trait. When it comes to emotions, that's key. You don't want to suppress them, too little, but you also don't want to be overwhelmed by them, too much. Emotional resilience is the balance point. Let's apply this. Imagine you're in a heated argument with someone you care about. You feel misunderstood, hurt, maybe even disrespected. You want to yell. You want to shut down. But instead, you take a moment. You breathe. You say, I feel hurt, but what do I want to create here? Connection? Understanding? Now you're not reacting. You're responding. That's resilience. That's strength. That's stoicism in real time. So what are some tools to help build this resilience? Here are a few simple practices. Mindful journaling. At the end of the day, write down what you felt, why, and how you responded. Look at it with curiosity, not judgment. Check your triggers. What consistently sets you off? Noticing patterns is the first step to breaking them. Create a mental pause button. Before reacting, train yourself to pause, even if just for 5 seconds. It creates space to choose your response. Anchor yourself with questions. When emotions run high, ask, is this in my control? What response aligns with the kind of person I want to be? What would Marcus, Seneca, or Epictetus do here? And perhaps most importantly, treat yourself with compassion. This journey is not about perfection. It's about progress. Some days you'll lose your temper. Some days you'll get anxious or spiral. That's okay. Every stumble is a chance to reflect, learn, and grow stronger. Remember what Epictetus said? No great thing is created suddenly. Emotional resilience isn't a flip of a switch. It's a daily practice. A quiet strength that grows every time you choose calm over chaos, understanding over reaction, grace over anger. And the beautiful thing is, this resilience doesn't just help you. It radiates outward. When you stay grounded, you become a calming presence for those around you. In your family, your workplace, your community, you set the tone. So the next time life tests your patience or hits you in the heart, pause. Breathe. Remember, you are not your emotions. You are the one who chooses what to do with them. Part 3. The obstacle is the way, turning setbacks into stepping stones. Let's be real. When life throws a curveball, our first instinct is usually to dodge it or complain about it. We get frustrated. We ask, why me? We look at problems as roadblocks, as reasons we can't move forward. But what if I told you that the very thing standing in your way might actually be the path forward? That's not just a motivational quote. It's one of the most powerful principles in Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote something so simple and yet so life-changing. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, the obstacle is the way. Think about that. Whatever challenge you're facing right now, whether it's rejection, failure, loss, or something completely unexpected, might actually be the exact thing that will help you grow, evolve, and step into a stronger version of yourself. It sounds counterintuitive, right? We're taught to avoid pain, to seek comfort, to fear setbacks. But Stoicism flips that on its head. It says, no, lean in. This difficulty? This is your training ground. Let's make it practical. Say you've been applying for jobs, but rejection after rejection keeps coming in. It's discouraging. It's easy to start doubting yourself. But now pause. Shift the question from, why is this happening to me? To, what is this teaching me? Maybe it's teaching you resilience. Maybe it's highlighting a skill you need to improve. Maybe it's pushing you to look in a new direction, one that's more aligned with your purpose. Suddenly, rejection isn't just pain, it's a mirror and a mentor. That's the Stoic mindset. Obstacles don't block the path. They are the path. And guess what? Modern thinkers agree. Carl Jung, the psychologist we mentioned earlier, said, "What you resist persists." Translation? When you fight against problems, when you deny or avoid them, you give them more power. But when you face them, learn from them, and move through them, they lose their grip on you. So the question becomes, how do we train ourselves to see obstacles this way? Let's walk through it step by step. Step 1. Reframe the narrative. Your brain is constantly telling you stories about what's happening. This is unfair. I'll never succeed. This always happens to me. But here's the thing, you are the narrator. And you get to change the story. Instead of saying, "This is the worst thing ever," ask, "What is this teaching me? How can I grow from this? What strengths can I build through this challenge?" This simple reframe is a Stoic superpower. Step 2. Get curious, not critical. When something goes wrong, our default is often to blame others, ourselves, or the world. But the Stoics invite us to take a different approach: curiosity. Instead of spiraling into self-doubt or anger, try asking, "What part of this situation is in my control? Is this challenge revealing something about me that I need to work on?" Now you're learning. Now you're using the obstacle as fuel. Step 3. Practice the art of patience. Sometimes obstacles don't move right away. That's okay. Marcus Aurelius led armies through brutal winters. Epictetus lived as a slave. Seneca was exiled. They didn't expect overnight breakthroughs. They expected tests. And they practiced patience. You can too. When you're in the middle of a challenge and nothing seems to be improving, remind yourself, progress is happening, even if you can't see it yet. Stay the course. Keep showing up. That's Stoicism. Let's bring it back to daily life. Imagine someone close to you says something hurtful. You're angry. You want to lash out. But instead you pause. You remember, this moment is a test. How I respond will either grow me or shrink me. You take a deep breath. You speak with honesty but without rage. You stay calm. You ask questions. You listen. That was an obstacle, a real emotional spike, and you turned it into a moment of strength. That's how the Stoics lived. Not perfectly, but deliberately. And over time, those small choices, they add up. You build confidence. You build character. You become anti-fragile, stronger because of what you've endured. And listen, this doesn't mean life gets easy. The Stoics never promised that. What they promised was something better, a mindset that can handle anything life throws at you. Even modern entrepreneurs and creatives live by this principle. There's even a whole movement today inspired by Marcus Aurelius' phrase, "The obstacle is the way." Best-selling books, leadership trainings, Navy SEALs, Fortune 500 CEOs, people across every niche are using this mindset to power through setbacks and keep moving forward. It's not hype. It's real. Because it works. And here's the real beauty. Every time you meet an obstacle with courage and clarity, you change your story. You're no longer the victim of your circumstances. You're the author. You're the one shaping meaning from adversity. And that, my friend, is a kind of freedom no one can take from you. Let's stop here for this section and reflect. So far, we've explored the core Stoic idea that what stands in the way becomes the way. How reframing, curiosity, and patience can turn any problem into a growth opportunity. Real-life examples of how to apply these tools every day. In the next part, we're diving into living in the present moment. How the Stoics and modern thinkers teach us to stop chasing the future or clinging to the past, and how that simple shift can change the way we experience life. The power of now, living in the present moment like a Stoic. How often do you find yourself stuck in the past or lost in the future? Maybe you're replaying a conversation that didn't go well, or stressing about something that hasn't even happened yet. Your body is here, but your mind? Somewhere else entirely. That's the modern condition, right? We're constantly pulled away from the present moment. But here's the Stoic response, a mindset that says, life is happening now. This moment is all you ever truly have. Don't waste it. Marcus Aurelius captured this truth perfectly. Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. And if that sounds familiar, it should. This same wisdom echoes through Buddhism, mindfulness practice, and modern psychology. But for the Stoics, it wasn't just spiritual or philosophical, it was practical. They understood something essential. If you want to live a meaningful life, you have to actually be present for it. Let's break that down. Why is it so hard to stay present? Well, our minds are built for survival. They scan the past for threats we've faced, and they anticipate the future to prepare for danger. That was helpful when we lived in caves and had to worry about wild animals. But today, it often just means we're caught in loops of regret and anxiety. You're eating lunch, but instead of enjoying your food, you're stressing about tomorrow's meeting. You're walking outside, but instead of noticing the breeze, your mind's replaying an argument from last week. And the cost? You miss the very life you're living. Here's what the Stoics knew. Peace doesn't exist in the past or the future. It lives in the now. And science backs this up. Studies on mindfulness show that being present increases happiness, lowers stress, and improves overall well-being. But Stoicism adds another layer. They weren't just saying be here now for the sake of peace. They said it because it's where you have power. Seneca wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." See, you can't act in the past. You can't control the future. All you've got is this moment. And if you're not grounded in it, you're not living fully. So how do we become more present, Stoic style? Step 1. Pay full attention. When you're doing something, do it. If you're eating, taste the food. If you're talking to someone, listen without planning your reply. If you're walking, notice your surroundings, the sounds, the colors, the movement. Marcus Aurelius said, "Now is all you ever have. Use it wisely." That means being deliberate with your time. Not rushing. Not multitasking. Just being. Step 2. Drop the illusion of control. A lot of anxiety comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. The weather, other people, the outcome of something weeks from now. But Stoicism reminds us to focus only on what's in our power, our thoughts, our choices, our attitude. By doing that, you let go of the rest. And that frees you to be fully present. Step 3. Embrace the small moments. Life isn't just about big goals or dramatic milestones. It's also the quiet coffee in the morning, the moment your dog rests their head on your lap, the breeze through the window while you work. Aristotle believed that happiness, eudaimonia, comes not from achievement alone, but from living virtuously in the moment. Making choices you're proud of, being kind, being present. Even Carl Jung said, "The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it." It's not about chasing the next big thing. It's about giving meaning to what's right in front of you. Step 4. Create presence rituals. Simple actions can ground you. A breath before opening your laptop. A moment of silence before meals. A short walk without your phone. Journaling at the end of the day. These rituals aren't about being perfect. They're about creating anchors, moments that gently pull you back into now. And here's a truth the Stoics lived by. When you're truly present, you become more powerful. Because you're not distracted. You're not scattered. You're focused. And with that clarity, you make better choices. You handle stress better. You connect more deeply with others. Let's put it into perspective. Imagine two people. One rushes through life, always thinking about what's next, always worrying about what might go wrong. The other? They move through life deliberately, paying attention, grounded in each moment. Who's more effective? Who's more at peace? Who's living more fully? It's the one who's present. So here's a challenge. For the rest of today, try living in slow motion. Not literally, of course, but mentally. Talk slower. Eat slower. Pause more often. Notice the world around you. Bring your attention to the task at hand. And when your mind starts racing ahead, gently remind yourself, this moment is enough. That's not just a practice, it's a power. A Stoic superpower, really. Because when you master the moment, you master your life. Let's pause here. So far, we've explored why the present moment is where your true power lives. How Stoicism encourages us to drop worry and regret and focus on now. Practical ways to ground yourself in the moment and live with intention. In the next part, we'll take a closer look at one of the most misunderstood but most powerful virtues in Stoicism, self-discipline. Not as punishment, but as a path to freedom and fulfillment. Part 5, Self-discipline. The freedom you didn't know you needed. When you hear the word self-discipline, what comes to mind? For a lot of people, it sounds like restriction. Like saying no to things you want. Like forcing yourself through boring routines, giving up joy and freedom. But what if we flip that idea? What if self-discipline wasn't about restriction at all, but about freedom? That's exactly how the Stoics saw it. To them, self-discipline wasn't punishment, it was power. Power to choose your actions. Power to live in alignment with your values. Power to resist short-term distractions so you can build a long-term life you love. Let's go to the words of Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. He wasn't just talking about staying calm in a crisis. He was pointing to something deeper, the ability to govern yourself. And that's really what self-discipline is. It's self-government. It's your internal compass. It's the skill of choosing what's right over what's easy. Let's look at an everyday example. You've had a long day. You're exhausted. You know you should hit the gym, read that book, or spend some quality time with your family. But scrolling your phone or binge-watching a show sounds way easier. And hey, sometimes rest is exactly what you need. But other times, that choice to do what feels good now takes you further away from the life you actually want. That's where self-discipline steps in. Could ask you, what do you really want long-term? Who do you want to become? Is this choice serving that goal? And when your answer is clear, self-discipline gives you the strength to follow through. It's not about perfection. It's about practice. Seneca offered this wisdom. Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power. That's it. Not the one with the most stuff. Not the one with the most talent. But the one who can direct their own actions. In modern terms, self-discipline is like a mental muscle. And just like any muscle, it gets stronger with use. Every time you wake up early even when you don't feel like it, choose to eat what fuels you over what numbs you, sit down to do the hard work instead of procrastinating, you're doing reps, you're building strength, you're becoming anti-fragile. Now let's pause and ask, why is this so important? Because without self-discipline, your life is reactive. You're at the mercy of moods, distractions, habits, and emotions. But with self-discipline, you're in the driver's seat. You're intentional. You're creating a life that's aligned with your values, not just your impulses. And that, the Stoics believed, was the path to freedom. Epictetus, one of the most practical Stoics, taught his students to separate what's up to us from what's not up to us. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Here's how that connects to self-discipline. Every time you choose what's in your control, your habits, your mindset, your reactions, you're claiming that freedom. You're refusing to be ruled by cravings, fears, or laziness. Now, let's tie this to modern psychology. Aristotle, who greatly influenced Stoic thought, believed that excellence is a habit. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. In today's world, we might call this the compound effect. It's the idea that small actions, repeated consistently over time, lead to massive results. One skipped workout? No big deal. Skipping it every day for a month? That's a different story. One night of procrastination? It happens. But turning it into a pattern? That shapes your future. Self-discipline gives you the ability to choose your patterns. And that's how you shape your life. So, how do you build it? How do you make self-discipline part of who you are, not just something you try for a few days before falling off? Here are 3 Stoic-backed strategies. 1. Start small and be consistent. Don't try to overhaul your whole life in a week. Pick one area, just one. Maybe it's waking up 30 minutes earlier. Maybe it's drinking water first thing in the morning. Maybe it's putting your phone away for 1 hour a night. Make it simple. Make it daily. As Epictetus said, no great thing is created suddenly. 2. Remind yourself of your why. Discipline without purpose becomes a chore. But discipline with purpose? That becomes a mission. So write it down. Why do you want to be more disciplined? What's the life you're working toward? Who are you becoming through these choices? Remind yourself often, because your why is your fuel. 3. Forgive yourself, but don't excuse yourself. You'll slip. Everyone does. The Stoics weren't superhumans. They were students of life. When you fall off track, don't beat yourself up. But don't stay off track either. Reflect. Learn. Get back in the game. As Marcus Aurelius said, when you arise in the morning, Think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. That's your reset button. Every morning, every choice. Self-discipline, at its best, isn't about forcing yourself. It's about freeing yourself from distraction, from regret, from living below your potential. So here's the question to leave you with today. What's one small action, just one, that you can take today to align more closely with the life you want? It might seem small now, but repeated daily, it becomes your foundation. So far, we've explored the Stoic view of self-discipline as the gateway to freedom, how habits shape our identity, and how small actions build lasting strength. Practical tools to strengthen discipline in a way that empowers, not restricts. Coming up next, we dive into the emotional side of Stoicism, not shutting down feelings but learning how to work with them. How do we handle grief, sadness, fear, or anger in a way that builds strength instead of breaking us? Part 6. Mastering Emotions. The Stoic Way to Inner Strength. Let's face it, emotions can feel like a tidal wave. One minute you're calm, the next, you're flooded with anger, disappointment, sadness, fear. And if we're not careful, those emotions can take the wheel. They can make us say things we regret, react without thinking, or even spiral into self-doubt. But here's what the Stoics knew long before modern psychology. Emotions don't have to control you. You can feel them deeply and still choose your response with wisdom. That's what emotional resilience is all about. Not ignoring your emotions. Not pretending to be fine when you're not. But learning to understand, navigate, and channel your emotions so they serve your growth, not sabotage it. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's not about shutting down how you feel. It's about realizing you don't have to act on every emotion. You can feel it, observe it, and still stay rooted in your values. Let's be clear, emotions are not bad. In fact, they're messengers. Signals. Anger might signal a boundary crossed. Sadness might point to something you value. Fear might be your brain trying to protect you. But when those emotions run wild without your awareness, they start running your life. Seneca, one of the most emotionally intelligent Stoics, said this: "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Think about that. How many times have you been overwhelmed not by the event itself, but by your story about the event? It's not the one rude comment that ruins your day, it's the spiral of thoughts it triggers. That's why Stoicism places so much emphasis on self-awareness. Because once you become aware of the emotion, you take its power away. You shift from being reactive to being responsive. Let's walk through how this works in everyday life. Say someone cuts you off in traffic. Instantly, your body reacts. Tight chest, clenched jaw, heat rising. Your impulse? Lay on the horn. Maybe shout. But then you pause. You ask yourself, is this really about me? Is this worth giving away my peace for? What would serve me more right now, anger or calm? And just like that, you've made a choice. You've taken the emotion off autopilot. That's emotional resilience in real time. It's not always easy, but with practice, it becomes your new normal. Now let's talk about tools, Stoic strategies to help you master your emotions instead of being mastered by them. 1. Name the emotion. Sounds simple, but this is huge. When you name what you're feeling, you create space between you and the feeling. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling jealous. I'm feeling anxious. It sounds basic, but the science backs it up. Naming emotions calms the brain and activates your rational thinking. As the Stoics believed, once you see clearly, you can choose wisely. 2. Reframe the meaning. Ask yourself, what else could this mean? Is this emotion pointing me to something important? Am I assuming the worst or seeing the whole picture? This reframing helps you turn painful emotions into learning moments. Epictetus reminded his students constantly, it's not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. The emotion isn't the enemy. It's your interpretation of the event that creates your suffering. 3. Practice the pause. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies your power. The Stoics taught this long before neuroscience did. So when emotion hits, pause. Take a breath. Count to 5. Walk away. Journal. Do whatever you need to create just a little space. Because in that space, you remember, you are in charge. 4. Choose a value-based response. This is the Stoic gold. Instead of reacting from the emotion, ask, what response reflects the person I want to be? What would courage look like right now? How can I honor my values here? Maybe you feel insulted, but you respond with grace. Maybe you feel scared, but you take the step anyway. Maybe you feel angry, but you choose to listen first. Each time you choose that path, you're reprogramming your brain. You're training yourself to lead your emotions, not be led by them. Even Aristotle said, anybody can become angry, that is easy. But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not easy. That's wisdom. That's maturity. That's what Stoicism calls us toward. Now, let's connect this with the teachings of Carl Jung, who believed that wholeness comes from integrating, not rejecting, our emotional world. Jung taught that when we repress emotions, they don't disappear. They go underground and come back stronger. The Stoics weren't about repression. They were about mastery. Feel the emotion. Understand the message. But choose your response with clarity and purpose. That's what makes you resilient. Not because life gets easier, but because you become stronger. Let me say that again. You become stronger. Through practice. Through reflection. Through a commitment to living in alignment with your highest self, even when your emotions are loud. So next time you feel a strong emotion rising, don't fight it. Don't fear it. Welcome it. Then take a breath and ask, what is the wisest response I can choose in this moment? That's the Stoic path. Not perfection, but progress. Not numbness, but awareness. Not coldness, but courage. Because emotional mastery isn't about not feeling. It's about feeling everything, and still choosing the path of strength, kindness, and purpose. In this part, we've explored why Stoics didn't suppress emotions, but studied and mastered them. The difference between reacting and responding. Practical tools to develop emotional resilience. Up next, we'll explore one of the most powerful yet often avoided Stoic concepts, memento mori, the practice of remembering death, not to fear it, but to live more fully because of it. Part 7, Memento Mori. How remembering death teaches us to truly live. There's a phrase in Stoic philosophy that might sound morbid at first, maybe even a little dark, but it holds a deep, life-affirming truth. Memento mori. It means, remember you must die. Now, you might be thinking, wait, why would I want to focus on something so heavy? But stay with me, because what the Stoics discovered is this. When you fully face the reality of death, you begin to fully embrace the beauty of life. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, wrote in his journal, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." That wasn't meant to scare him. It was a wake-up call. A reminder, life is short. Time is precious. Don't waste it on things that don't matter. Because when you remember that tomorrow isn't promised, you start living today with more intensity, more intention, and more love. Let's go deeper. In today's world, we're constantly distracted. We put off what matters. We assume we'll always have more time to forgive, to travel, to create, to love, to live. But Memento Mori says, no, you don't have time to waste. And strangely, that's not depressing. It's liberating. Because it puts everything into perspective. That argument you keep replaying? That fear of looking silly? That anxiety about someone else's opinion? None of it really matters in the end. What does matter? Being kind, being present, doing meaningful work, loving with your whole heart, taking the leap. Seneca put it like this: it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. That line hits hard. Because most of us don't really grasp how much time we let slip by scrolling, overthinking, procrastinating. But what if you woke up every morning and asked yourself, if today were my last day, how would I live it? Not in a panicked, bucket list kind of way, but in a grounded, purposeful, grateful way. That's the Stoic way. Not fearing death, using it as fuel. Fuel to live deeply, to live now, to live well. Now let's pause for a moment and make this real. Think of something you've been putting off. A conversation you need to have. A risk you've been too afraid to take. A dream that's still sitting on the shelf. What would change if you truly remembered your time is finite? Would you still delay? Would you still play small? Would you still hold back? Memento Mori invites us to let go of the illusion of forever and start living on purpose. It also helps us become more compassionate. When we remember that everyone around us is also mortal, we become more patient, more understanding, more forgiving. Suddenly, holding on to grudges or judging others harshly loses its appeal. We start asking, is this how I want to spend my limited time? Epictetus emphasized this when he said, "Keep death and exile before your eyes each day, and you'll never have a base thought, nor will you have excessive desire." He didn't mean that in a gloomy way. He meant, when you remember your fragility, you stop wasting your energy on things that weaken your spirit. And here's the beautiful paradox. By accepting the truth of death, you don't become more fearful, you become more fearless. You stop waiting for the right time to live your life. You start now, with what you have, exactly as you are. Carl Jung, the renowned psychologist, spoke of this too. A man who fears death has already died. When you spend your life running from the inevitable, you miss the joy of being alive. But when you face it, when you accept it as part of the human journey, you begin to live with more depth, more clarity, and more heart. So, how do we make Memento Mori part of our daily practice? 1. Reflect on impermanence. Take a few quiet moments each day to remind yourself, life is fragile. Nothing is guaranteed. Use that awareness to appreciate what's in front of you. Even simple things, a conversation, a laugh, a meal, feel richer when you know they're not forever. 2. Ask the final day question. At least once a week, ask, if this were my last day, what would I want to say, do, or be? This question brings instant clarity. It strips away distractions. It reconnects you with what truly matters. 3. Make decisions like time is short. When faced with choices, let this guide you. Will I regret not doing this? Does this reflect how I want to be remembered? Am I living today in a way I'd be proud of? These aren't heavy questions, they're clarifying. They help you act with courage, integrity, and urgency. Because the truth is, one day the clock will stop. And when it does, what matters won't be how many followers you had or how busy you were. What will matter is how deeply you lived, how honestly you loved, how bravely you showed up. And that's the gift of Memento Mori. Not to fear death, but to let it teach you how to fully live. To remind you, speak the truth. Say, I love you. Take the chance. Forgive quickly. Create boldly. Be present. Because this life, your life, is not a rehearsal. It's the real thing. And the time to live it is now. In this part, we explored the Stoic concept of Memento Mori and how it empowers us to live more purposefully. How remembering our mortality brings clarity, courage, and compassion. Practical ways to integrate this mindset into your daily life. In Part 8, we'll shift from reflection to gratitude, how the Stoics practiced appreciation even during hardship, and how that mindset can shift everything in your life. Part 8, Gratitude, the Stoic key to lasting peace and joy. Let's talk about a practice that's simple, free, and incredibly powerful, yet we often forget it in the rush of daily life. That practice is gratitude. Now, you've probably heard people talk about gratitude before. Be grateful. Count your blessings. It's become something of a buzzword. But the Stoics didn't treat gratitude like a motivational slogan. They treated it like a daily discipline, a tool to transform how you experience the world. Marcus Aurelius, in the middle of wars, sickness, and heavy responsibility, still found time to write. When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. That's Stoic gratitude. Not based on how perfect life is, but on how precious it is, even when it's hard. Here's the truth. Gratitude isn't a result of happiness. Gratitude is the cause of it. It's easy to be grateful when everything's going your way. The real test, and the real magic, comes when you practice gratitude in the midst of difficulty. That's what the Stoics trained themselves to do. Let's go back to Seneca, who wrote, "We should always allow some time to elapse, for time discloses the truth." He knew that sometimes you don't see the value of a challenge until you're on the other side of it. But gratitude invites you to look for the lesson, even while you're still in the storm. And the more you look, the more you see. Let's break it down. Gratitude, from a Stoic point of view, does three key things. 1. It shifts your focus. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control. Gratitude helps you zoom in on what's already good in your life. That shift, from lack to abundance, from what's missing to what's present, can immediately lift your mood, lower anxiety, and increase resilience. Even on a rough day, you can find something: a breath of fresh air, a lesson learned, a moment of laughter. Small things, but powerful when acknowledged. 2. It anchors you in the present. We often live in two places: the past, regret, or the future, worry. Gratitude brings you back to now. When you stop and say, "I'm thankful for this coffee, this conversation, this moment," you become present. And presence is where life happens. As Aristotle believed, happiness, eudaimonia, comes from living well in the moment, aligned with virtue and awareness. Gratitude is one way to enter that space. 3. It strengthens your relationships. Gratitude isn't just internal, it's relational. When you express genuine appreciation to others, it deepens your connection. It lets people feel seen and valued. It creates a ripple effect of positivity. The Stoics emphasize this too. That's the Stoic definition of success. Not wealth, not power, but virtue in action. In this part, we explored how the Stoics viewed personal excellence as internal mastery, not external status. Why habits, not occasional effort, are the foundation of living well. How to apply Stoic discipline through daily practices like intention, reflection, and self-accountability. Coming up in part 10, we're going to face one of the biggest struggles in the modern world: external validation. We'll explore how the Stoics broke free from the opinions of others, and how you can too. Part 10, freeing yourself from approval, the Stoic path to inner confidence. Let's be honest. In today's world, it's easy to measure your worth by what others think of you. How many likes did your post get? How do people respond to you? Do they approve of your choices? Your appearance? Your lifestyle? The pressure is everywhere. But here's the thing. If your confidence depends on other people's validation, it's never going to be stable. Because opinions change. Trends shift. People project. The Stoics knew this. That's why they taught a radically liberating truth. Your worth does not come from others. It comes from within. Let that settle in for a second. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome and one of the most powerful men in history, wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." That hits deep, doesn't it? We live in our own minds 24/7, yet we often give more weight to someone else's passing thought than to our own inner voice. So how do we break free? How do we stop living for applause and start living for alignment? Let's look at how the Stoics tackled this question, and how you can too. 1. Know what's in your control. This is the core of Stoic thought. Epictetus said, "Some things are up to us and some things are not." You can control your thoughts, your actions, your values. You cannot control how others interpret you, judge you, or react to you. And when you realize that, you stop chasing approval. You start focusing on your own lane. The Stoics practiced this constantly. They asked themselves, "Am I acting with integrity? Am I aligned with virtue? Am I doing what I believe is right?" If the answer was yes, then the crowd's opinion, good or bad, didn't matter, because they weren't living for the crowd. They were living for their character. 2. Judge yourself fairly. Here's the paradox. Most of us are either too harsh or too soft on ourselves. The Stoic path is about balance. They didn't encourage arrogance or self-loathing. They encouraged honest self-reflection. At the end of the day, ask yourself, did I act with kindness? Did I do my best? Did I live by my values? That's your standard. Not likes, not approval, not applause. Just the truth of your own effort and alignment. Seneca said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." This applies not just to wealth, but to validation. You don't need everyone's approval. You need your own peace of mind. 3. Embrace being misunderstood. Let's be real, if you live authentically, someone won't like it. That's not a failure. That's a sign you're living with courage. The Stoics embraced this. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have to assemble your life yourself, action by action. And not everyone will understand the actions you take. That's okay. Your job isn't to be understood by everyone. Your job is to understand yourself. And as long as you act with integrity, the opinions of others are just background noise." 4. Build inner stillness. In a noisy world, inner stillness is a superpower. The Stoics cultivated it through meditation, reflection, and solitude. They believed the more anchored you are on the inside, the less swayed you'll be by the outside. Here's a practical exercise. When you notice yourself craving validation, pause. Take a breath. Why do I need their approval right now? What would I do if I were acting from truth, not fear? This builds self-trust. And the more you trust yourself, the less you'll seek permission to be who you are. 5. Redefine success. Our culture says success is fame, attention, recognition. The Stoics had a different definition. Success is living in alignment with your values. You don't need to be admired by millions to be successful. You need to admire how you're living. Can you look yourself in the mirror and say, "I showed up with courage. I stayed kind in the face of criticism. I stayed grounded in what matters"? That's success. That's winning. And the best part? You can experience that kind of success every day without needing anyone else to notice. Let's bring this down to one powerful question you can carry with you. Am I living for applause or for purpose? One fades, one fulfills. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But you can't do that if you're constantly shape-shifting to fit someone else's expectations. You were not made to be a copy. You were made to live truthfully. And truth rarely looks like perfection. It looks like courage. It looks like kindness. It looks like showing up when it's hard. It looks like choosing growth over comfort. It looks like saying, "This is me," even if it's not trendy. The Stoics didn't care about trends. They cared about timelessness. And the timeless truth is this: you are enough, not when others say so, but when you live like it's true. In this section we explored how to stop letting others' opinions control your self-worth, why internal alignment matters more than external validation, how Stoic reflection builds true confidence and inner peace. In Part 11, we'll look at how Stoics embrace change, not as something to fear, but as a natural and necessary part of life. You'll learn how to flow with change, adapt with grace, and use transitions to grow stronger. Part 11, Embracing Change, the Stoic Guide to Letting Go and Growing Forward. Let's talk about something that every single one of us faces, sometimes daily. Change. It's unavoidable. Relationships shift. Jobs evolve. Plans fall apart. The people we love age. We ourselves change, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And yet, so many of us fight it. We cling to comfort. We resist transitions. We grieve what was, and fear what might come next. But what if we stopped fearing change? What if we started flowing with it, growing through it? That's exactly what the Stoics teach us. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Observe constantly that all things take place by change, and accustom yourself to consider that the nature of the universe loves nothing so much as to change." In other words, change isn't a problem. It's the default setting of life. It's natural, necessary, universal. To resist it is to resist reality. And that resistance? That's what causes so much of our suffering. Change is the only constant. Let's be real, You can't control how the world changes. You can't stop time. You can't keep everything the same. You can't hold people in place or lock down life into a perfect picture. What you can control is how you respond. That's where freedom lives. That's where growth lives. The Stoics weren't interested in control. They were interested in adaptability. Epictetus reminded us, it's not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. When you judge change as bad, scary, or wrong, you suffer. But when you accept it, embrace it, and even find meaning in it, you evolve. Why we resist change? Let's go a little deeper. We often resist change because we fear the unknown. We mourn what's familiar. We feel out of control. But the Stoics flipped that mindset. They asked, what can I learn from this? What is this change revealing about my values? How can this moment shape me into someone wiser? Seneca said, a gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. Change is that friction, that pressure, that process. It forces us to confront old beliefs. It invites us to shed layers. It stretches us beyond the comfort zone. And yeah, it's uncomfortable, but it's also the birthplace of every major breakthrough in your life. Making peace with impermanence. Another key to embracing change is making peace with the fact that nothing lasts forever. The Stoics called this impermanence. Everything we have, our health, our youth, our relationships, even our possessions, is temporary. And instead of being depressed by that, the Stoics were energized by it. Because when you realize something won't last, you start cherishing it more. That morning coffee, that hug, that sunset, that chapter of your life. Memento mori, the practice we talked about earlier, remembering that we will die, is deeply connected to this. It reminds us, don't sleepwalk through life. Don't take anything for granted. Don't miss the beauty of now because you're stuck in fear of what's next. When you know that everything is temporary, you stop clinging, and you start living. The Stoic process for embracing change. Here are 4 simple, Stoic-inspired steps for navigating change with clarity and strength. 1. Accept what is. Stop arguing with reality. Whatever is changing has already changed. Resistance only adds pain. This is happening. Now how will I respond? That's your power. That's your starting point. 2. Focus on what you can control. Always come back to this. Can you control the external shift? Maybe not. But you can control your mindset, your attitude, your next action. Anchor yourself there. That's where you're strongest. 3. Find the opportunity. Every change is an invitation to learn, to grow, to start again, to evolve. What is this teaching me? What strength is this building in me? What can I now do that I couldn't before? Sometimes, a door closing is the push you need to open the right one. Stay rooted in your values. Even when everything around you changes, your values can keep you grounded. Compassion, integrity, courage, discipline. Let those be your guide. You can lose a job and still act with grace. You can end a relationship and still walk with respect. You can step into the unknown with fear and still choose to move forward with faith. That's what it means to be resilient. A modern reminder. In modern psychology, we call this adaptability. In business, it's called pivoting. In Stoicism, it's called living according to nature, flowing with life, not fighting it. Carl Jung once said, "We cannot change anything unless we accept it." The Stoics would nod in agreement, because only through acceptance do we access our creativity, our clarity, and our courage. When you stop resisting, you start responding. You start rebuilding. You start reimagining. You start living. So here's the mindset to carry forward. Change isn't the enemy. It's the invitation to release what no longer fits, to embrace what wants to emerge, to become more of who you're meant to be. Don't fear the storm. Learn to sail in it. And remember, what feels like an ending today might just be the beginning of your next beautiful chapter. In this section, we explored how the Stoics viewed change not as a threat, but as part of life's natural rhythm. The power of accepting impermanence and finding meaning in transition. Practical ways to respond to change with strength, clarity, and purpose. In Part 12, we'll conclude this journey by exploring how the Stoics viewed compassion and connection, because even in a philosophy known for self-mastery, they believed that a life well lived is deeply intertwined with how we treat others. Part 12, Stoic Compassion. Why true strength is never without kindness. When people think of Stoicism, they often picture emotional toughness, logical thinking, and inner strength, and that's all true. But what's often misunderstood is this. The Stoics were also deeply compassionate. They didn't just teach us how to master ourselves, they taught us how to live well with others. Because no matter how disciplined or wise you become, life isn't lived in isolation. It's lived in relationships, in communities, in the small ways we show up for each other. Marcus Aurelius said, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." He believed we are social beings by nature, designed to work together, support each other, and contribute to something greater than ourselves. In other words, you can't thrive without compassion. Stoicism is not cold, it's considerate. Stoicism doesn't mean pushing people away. It means showing up with clarity, patience, and emotional maturity. It means you can feel deeply, but still respond wisely. It means you can love without clinging, support without controlling, care without overextending. That's what real compassion looks like. And the Stoics practiced it every day. Seneca, one of the most eloquent Stoic voices, often wrote about kindness. Just wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. He reminded us that everyone is struggling with something we can't see, that we should extend grace, not because others always deserve it, but because we choose to be virtuous. Seeing people through the lens of empathy. It's easy to judge others, to assume we know why they're acting a certain way, to label their flaws and walk away. But Epictetus encouraged his students to slow down and understand. He taught that people don't act out of malice, but often out of fear, ignorance, or pain. He asked, when someone acts poorly, don't ask, why are they like this? Ask, what pain must they be carrying to act this way? That shift is empathy, and it changes everything. The power of listening. One of the most compassionate acts in Stoic living is simply listening. In a world full of noise, where everyone's trying to be heard, being the one who truly listens is rare and powerful. The Stoics believed that wisdom wasn't just about speaking truth, it was about seeking truth. And sometimes, that truth is found by stepping into someone else's shoes, sitting with their story, and simply being present. You don't always need to fix. You don't always need to respond. Sometimes compassion looks like holding space, letting someone feel safe enough to be real. Compassion includes boundaries. Here's something important. Compassion is not the same as people-pleasing. Stoics taught that helping others should never come at the cost of betraying your own values. Being compassionate doesn't mean saying yes to everything. It means choosing love and respect, for others and for yourself. It means having the strength to say, I care about you and I need space. I want to help, but not at the cost of my well-being. I love you, but I also love my peace. That's not selfish. That's healthy compassion. Because the more grounded you are, the more you can genuinely give, without resentment or burnout. Practicing Stoic compassion daily. So how do we bring more compassion into our lives, the Stoic way? Here are a few daily practices. 1. Assume positive intent. When someone says something that feels off, pause. Before reacting, ask yourself, could they be coming from a place of pain, fear, or confusion? This doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it creates space for understanding. 2. Reflect before responding. When you feel triggered or disrespected, take a beat. What response reflects who I want to be? Compassion doesn't mean being passive. It means choosing your response deliberately, not reactively. 3. Offer without attachment. Do good, but don't get attached to how it's received. Whether someone thanks you or not, whether they change or not, your act of kindness still holds value. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, don't expect the world to repay your virtue. The act is its own reward. That's Stoic giving. Expect nothing in return, but give fully anyway. Why compassion strengthens you. Here's the powerful paradox. The more compassion you practice, the stronger you become. Not weaker, stronger. Because compassion takes emotional regulation. It takes humility. It takes courage to care in a world that often feels cold. The Stoics believed this deeply. They weren't aiming for a life free of emotion. They were aiming for a life guided by wisdom and love. They saw that we are all connected. That your pain is not separate from mine. That when I lift you up, I rise too. That's why real Stoicism isn't just personal growth. It's collective growth. It's not just about mastering the self. It's about using that mastery to serve something larger than the self. Carl Jung echoed this beautifully. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of others. In other words, the more you understand yourself, your triggers, your struggles, your past, the more gracefully you can meet others in theirs. And that's where Stoic compassion becomes transformational. The Stoics leave us with a simple but powerful question. Am I living only for myself, or am I using my strength to make the world a little better? Compassion isn't a soft idea. It's a Stoic virtue. A quiet, steady force that changes lives, starting with your own. And maybe, just maybe, the world doesn't need more noise. Maybe it needs more stillness, more kindness, more people who lead not with ego, but with empathy. Be that person. Be the one who shows strength and shares it, who stands firm and reaches out, who knows how to be still and how to show up. That's the Stoic way. And that's the kind of life that leaves a legacy. This concludes our journey through the timeless wisdom of Stoicism. You've explored the power of perspective, the value of emotional resilience, the strength of self-discipline, the peace of presence, the courage to change, and the impact of compassion. But more than that, you've gathered the tools to live with clarity, purpose, and grace. So now the question is, what will you do with that wisdom? Because the Stoics wouldn't want you to just admire their words, they'd want you to live them. And if you do, you won't just survive this life. You'll lead it, with strength, love, and truth. Thank you for walking this path with me. Now go walk yours.